how you doing today? Good to have you here. Now, how to make your home welcoming? How do you make your home welcoming? Now, do you always feel this excitement when it's time to go home, or you feel sad and you're not happy to go home? Now, there are a lot of things you can do to make your home welcoming. Now, don't forget that the home and the house are two different things. Now, when you talk about your home, you're talking about a place where you go for succor, you find love, you find peace, and a whole lot of that. So if your home isn't presenting all of these, then you have to do something about it. Now you have to make your home welcoming so you can always feel excited whenever you want to have to go home. So you remember the saying, there's no place like what? Home. Through. Now let's move on to our topic for today. So we'll talk more on what the home is and how welcoming it should be. Now, before we move on, there's some things you need to know about in the course of this topic for today. So now the first thing you should be able to know is to differentiate between a house and a home. So yeah, there are two different things and they mean two different things. So you'll be able to differentiate a house and a home. And also you should be able to state the characteristics of a home. What is expected in the home? What should a home look like? What are the things I should look out for when I am in my home or I'm visiting someone else's home? Now you need to describe the various types of houses. Now we have different types of houses around. You know some of them. So we're going to be looking at some of these types of houses. And also we'll explain ways in which we can obtain the family house. You know, there are a whole lot of ways. You know, one of the goals of the family is to do what? To own a house. So we'll look at some of the ways whereby a family can actually own a house. Okay, now this is housing the family. So the topic we're looking at today is what? Housing the family. Beautiful. Now, let's look at what a house is. A house is just a building. So when you hear the word house, it's just what? The building. Now, it includes the different types of shelters we have around, okay, where people can actually live in, where people can, live in and just find something to cover them from the harsh weather, from, the sun, the rain, and all of these other things that are not so good when that has to do with you just staying in the open. So that's what the house is. It's just a building. It's just where people live. So when you live in a house that has a covering, that's just a house. Now let's move on to what a home is. Now, a home is a place where the family lives. Now, a family lives in a house. Now, but the difference is that a home is where family lives and where they can do so many things, a lot of things. They can share a lot of things together. So now the family would live in a house and then make it what? A home. So it goes beyond just the building, just to get shelter. Now it goes beyond all of that. So they tend to do what? To find love in in the home. Now, the home has a whole lot that is associated with it. Now, a home can be a place where you can relax and be at ease. When you're home, you need to feel at ease. You need to relax and also live and work together for the benefit of each other. That's what a home is all about. They live They live and work together for the benefit of each other. They also prepare food and eat as a family. They're happy together, they love each other, they prepare when it's time for dinner, everybody's sitting out and they're eating. Whatever time it is to eat, everybody's sitting out and they're eating. That's what a home is all about. Now they share each other's interest. They share in their joy, they share in their sorrow, they share in the love, they share when one is down in all the troubles. Maybe you come back home and, I didn't really do well in my studies. And it's fine, no problem. You're going to do better next time. They share in your pain, everything that has to do with you. That's what a home is all about. Now, it's a place where you long to go to whenever you're downcast or you feel like you need to talk to someone. A home is a place where you go because you find all of these people there. Now, we're going to look at the family needs that are met in the home. What are these needs that we can actually meet in the home. So let's look at some of the family needs that are met in the home. Now, one of the first needs that we need is the physical needs. Now, when you talk about physical needs, this has to do with what the family needs what for survival, such as what? Shelter, air, sunlight, rest, sleep, food, safety. Now, all the things are physical. This is what individuals would need in a home. Physical what? Needs. They of course need what? Shelter, they will need sunlight, they will need rest, they will need sleep, they need food, they need safety to keep them going. Okay, now the home should offer safety for what? Family and their belongings. That's what the house should do. It should do what? Offer a sense of belonging to the individuals by meeting these needs that the family members have and want. Now the second one here we have is emotional needs. We have physical, we have emotional needs. Now this has to do with a little bit our internal needs. As individuals, as families, we tend to crave or long for comfort, for privacy, for a place of recreation and relaxation. After everything, after maybe, you've gone through school and all of that, you just want to ease off. Now the home should be able to do what? Provide all of these things in the person of what? The family members, okay? To be able to meet your emotional needs. Okay, now you can find comfort, privacy, recreation. When you talk about recreation, where you can actually do something to keep you happy, lively, and them not to feel sad at all, just to ease off some stress, okay, and also to relax. Now the next one we have is our social needs. Don't forget we are social beings, so our social needs are very, very important. Now these needs include love and a sense of belonging. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to feel like they are loved. Now you don't want to be in a gathering or amongst people that do not love you. It's not a good feeling at all. So one of the social needs of family members is that they want to feel love and a sense of belonging. So when they are talking, okay, yeah, that's my brother, that's my sister, that sense of belonging, not to say, oh, you're not part of this family, just stay somewhere, just stay here and do all of that. Now, a sense of belonging to make you feel like you're part of this family. Now, when you think of home, maybe in the long run, you're done with secondary school, you're done with primary school, and then secondary school, maybe you're going off to the boarding school, and then you'll be in school. So when you say it's holiday time, you're super excited to go back home because it's a place where, you feel a sense of belonging, and then you long to always go back home because of all the needs that are met in the home that naturally you wouldn't get to find outside aside what? The home. So the home should be a place where family members do what? Long to go back to. Not, I don't want to go home. That place is too toxic. That place is not good for me. No. It shouldn't be like that. The home should be a place where we always want to go. So whoever is hearing this, so if your home doesn't represent this, you need to really work on it. You need to work on it so that the home will be a place where people would always be excited to do what? To come to. Now, we want to look at the housing part. Now, we have the various types of houses found in rural and what? Urban areas. I'm sure you know what rural and urban areas are. Okay, yeah, but I'll just say something about that. Now, when you talk about rural, this has to do with what? The interiors, those places that are not well developed, and then still riverine areas and not well developed. Then when you talk about urban, these places are already developed with a lot or more or less with technology around, and then you can see modern houses, buildings, and all of that. So now I want to look at the various types of houses found in rural and urban areas. Now the first one you find in a rural area is the mud house. Now a whole lot of you have never been in it. rather you've never seen it. Now you're going to be seeing it in your picture, in your textbook, and all of that. Now I've been opportunity to see a mud house, and I've also been opportunity to visit. Now back then, my grandpa had one, so I was in there. Now they are common in the rural areas. Up until now, yes, you still find them in the northern parts of Nigeria. They still have them. People still live in them now. Surprised? Yes, but people still live in them up until this day. Now they have shallow foundations. They are very shallow, like they're not too deep. They are just up there, and also they are not suitable for low-lying ground or riverine areas. You know, they are made of mud, so if they're always having contact with water all the time, you know what will happen, of course. So it's going to just one day just melt off. So it's not good to have your mud houses where it will always interfere with water regularly. Now also, there's something about the mud house. Yes. Now it is usually cool in what? Hot, dry season. It is usually cool in hot, dry season. When the weather is hot, and then you go into the mud house, you might be wondering, how did they even survive all this while? Now that's the good thing about the mud house. If the weather is very hot, and then you go into a mud house, it feels very chilled and cold. Now the same thing happens when the weather is so hot or cool. It does what? It feels warm when you go in. So when it is cold, you go in, you feel warm. When it is hot out and you go in, you do what? You feel warm. These are some of the houses that great-grandparents stayed in before we had the modern houses. Let's look at another rural houses that we can find. Now, this is the bamboo houses. Now, today, yes, they use most of the bamboo houses for recreational areas where they just put it up there as spots where people can sit out and drink. But in years before now, people actually lived in what? Bamboo houses. They lived in bamboo houses. Okay, now these houses are constructed on top of slits, standing in water with thatched roofs. Okay, now it is also very common in riverine areas. Now I've never been opportune to be in a bamboo house, but I've seen one, and then this is what it looks like, as you can see on your screen. Now these houses are built mostly, you find them, it's usually built on on stilts, and you can actually build it where you have water, under it. These are the bamboo houses that are very common in the rural areas. In some places, they still have it up on till this day. Okay, now let's come back to the one not all these other ones that we've been talking about. Now, the modern houses. Yeah, I know this is what you were born into, the modern houses where everything is just okay, lovely and beautiful. There's no stress, no fatigue when it has to do with cooking and all of that. So modern houses have walls that are constructed with concrete or burnt brick blocks, just as the one we have today. Now there are different types of modern houses that families live in. Different types. We have different types, and we're going to be looking at some of them. Now, the first one here we have is the single family houses. Now, these are single units. Housing units are freestanding. It can be small or large, 1 story or several stories high. Now, these can be for a family that wants to just have a place, a single family house, and then you could actually do 1 story, or you could do more, several stories high, depending on what the family's choice. Anyway, this has to do with what the family's choice and the number of persons in the family. Now let's look at some of the advantages of the single family house. Now for this one, a lot of us live in these houses. Now they offer more privacy than any other type of housing. Now when you're in, it is just you and your family. There are no neighbors to tell you to come back properly, to do this and do that. It is just you and your family, maybe mommy, daddy, your siblings, one or two aunties, or just the nuclear family, and then you're just there. Okay, now they are built or selected to meet the needs of the family. Okay, as the family is growing, everybody has their room, and then the kitchen is spacious. There are parking lots where the cars can park. There's a place for recreation where you can play games and a whole lot of things. It's actually built to meet the needs of what family members. Now, another advantage of the family or the single family housing is that you don't have tenants, co-tenants to what that can actually cause you to quarrel. Now, because you're not doing anything. Now, when two or more persons that are not actually having, just even with family members, you tend to have misunderstanding, not to talk of outrightly someone that is not related to you. Now, with your single family housing, you do not have tenants, you do not have co-tenants, so there's no way you'll be quarreling over who kept this here, why did you do this, why didn't you do that. So that's the advantage of what the single family housing is, just you and your family, no tenant to do what, to have issues with. Now, we also have disadvantages of the single family housing. It is usually more expensive than the multiple family housing. Yes, it costs more to actually build that. Now, most families will have to do what, save up more to actually achieve that. Now, the multiple family housing where people are actually living here, you can just go pick a flat. You can just pick maybe 1-bedroom flat, 2-bedroom flat, as it suits the family, okay, and then it's cheaper. So where you're going to build or where you're going to buy a house for millions, you can just rent for 300, 400, and 400,000. It's more or quite expensive. Now, it requires more land. If you need to do this, you would have to get a land. You have to build to achieve that dream house. Now, it requires more land. You can't just do something that small. It all depends on the family as well. Now, let's look at the multiple family housing. Multiple family housing is a house that that contains several housing units. It contains several housing units under one roof. Now, a whole lot of us are living in such houses whereby you have flats, and then you're just in. Maybe you have like block of flats, or is there a duplex? One person is here, and the other neighbor is by the other side. Now, this is very common. It's very common. It's very common, and it's commonly built as well. So there are various variations when it comes to what multiple family housing, such as your duplex, or is it a block of flats. Now, let's look at the advantages of multiple family housing as well. Now, less land is used as compared to single family building, if you remember. Now, this would actually not require you to want to do a whole lot more. Now, if you're renting or you're actually going to be renting it out, you don't need too much space to do that, not much land. And also, they could be more readily available than the single family housing. Yes, when it has to do with rentage, they're very much available, and they're often more affordable. You can actually get access or actually find them cheaper to do to live in. Now, there are also disadvantages of multiple family housing. There are also disadvantages of multiple family housing. The first one is that there are not enough storage for outdoor activities. You find out that you want to play football, you can't play football because there's no enough space. You want to do a lot of things, and then there are no enough space. So that's one of the disadvantages of multiple family housing, because most of the houses are occupied where the family would have kept for recreation. So that's one of the disadvantages. And also, residents and families may do they may share spaces. Yes. Because the space is not much, you would have to share, maybe with co-tenants. Okay, today I'm going to use here today. Tomorrow you use here. The next day and all of that. And another disadvantage about the multiple family housing is that it can be very noisy. A whole lot of people around. You can actually control what is happening in the other person's house. It can be very noisy when you have different blocks of flats and people living in different flats. It can be very noisy. And also another disadvantage is that co-tenants might find occasion to do to quarrel. Yes, because you would actually get to misunderstand each other one day. Okay, it could be that there are some multiple family housing spaces that do not have good spacing for parking lots, and then you came in early, you want to go out, you have to wait for this neighbor to come move out for you to move out. So something or somehow, maybe the children are playing and then there's something happened, somehow you're going to quarrel. So the disadvantage is that sometimes you could actually make people to do to quarrel or misunderstand each other. Now let's look at the factors that influence the location and choice of family housing. Factors that influence the location and choice of family housing. Now the first one we have here is the economic factor. The economic factor is very, very important. How buoyant is the family? How buoyant is the family? Can the family afford it? Now, it depends on the family. If the family loves to live in an estate, they love the scenery of an estate and all of that, can they be able to afford the utility bill that comes with living in an estate? It's not just about loving or liking the place. So the economic factor, the economic status can be a factor that can influence your choice of where your family house can be. So if you do not have any money, or you don't have the low earning income family can decide to just go somewhere and do something small, while the high income family can do get somewhere that is okay to their taste and move on. So economic factor is one factor that influences the location and choice of the family housing. Now another one is the location of the house. Now this should be put into consideration. Now if you're getting a place, or you're going to be living in a place, maybe mommy and daddy wants to move to somewhere, the first thing they would have to think of is the children's school. Is it close to where the children would actually get access to school early? Are there markets around? Are there healthcare centers around? Are there accessible roads, where we can actually, just move in, move out? Now, the location of the house, the site, is one factor that influences the location and choice of the family house. The next one is the size of the family. The size of the family is very, very important too. It influences the location and choice of the family house. Maybe mommy and daddy got married, they were just in a self-con or maybe a one-bedroom flat, and then they had the first child, the second child. They would definitely need more space, and then they would want to move out and get more space because the family is increasing. Now the size of the family affects this. Now for a smaller family, you can decide to do somewhere that you can actually just stay with and manage. But as the family grows, you would have to need more space to do for them to actually have enough space, rather than squeezing up everybody in. So another one is the family life circle. Now this also has to do with the growth of the family. Now, like I said, when mommy and daddy gets married, it's just the both of them. And then as they begin to have children, 1, 2, 3, let's say 4 children, they tend to have the need for more space. They want bigger space. So now, as they get bigger space, the children are growing. They get through secondary school, they get through university, and then it's time for them to get married. And then all of them are married off, and they're all gone to their husbands' and wives' houses. Now, mommy and daddy is left all alone. Grandparents are left all alone. Now, in that big space where they had lived before, so what happens? They would want to do what? This space is too much for us to do what? To live in. So let's get somewhere small, or we can just stay downstairs and them not, rather than occupying everywhere, because it might become quite boring for them. So family life cycle is another factor that influences the location and choice of the family house. The next one we have is special needs of family members. Special needs of family members. Now, let's say, for instance, a family member has issue with their leg, has an issue with their leg, and then the family wants to go for a story building. Of course, you consider the person that has the issue with the legs, because it will be difficult for the person to do what? Go up, come down, and all of that. So these are some of the needs that the family considers when it has to do with what? The choice of the family house. Also, let's say for someone that special needs, when you talk about special needs of the family, now someone that maybe is blind, can't see so much, you wouldn't have to get a bigger space where the person wouldn't be able to do what? Navigate it around the house. So special needs of the family members is considered when it has to do with the location and the choice of the family house. Now, another one is the design of the house. Now, this is the family's what? Preference. Now, if the family wants a bigger house, a lot of people have different tastes for what they want now, and they want different types of layout. Now, let's take the kitchen layout, for instance. I want my kitchen to be like this, to have the L shape, to have the corridor type, to have the U shape, and all of that. Now, this is the family's preference. The design, I want the building like this, I want it like this. Maybe, let's say if the person is actually going to rent, you look out for these things. The design of the house is one factor that influences. If you go to a place where you do not like, you might not really enjoy it. Now, giving an instance, now for me, when we had to come back, we didn't actually get to see where we're renting, and only for us to get here and we got to the kitchen, everything was just like nothing was happening there. Now, if I were to go and get somewhere to live, I wouldn't pick that place, because I knew what I wanted. I wanted a kitchen that had cabinets and all of that, but this one was just built on its own. So we had to do what? Get all of that for ourselves. So the design of the house is another factor that influences the choice of the family house. Another one is the ventilation and lighting. Very true. Now, there are some houses that when there's no lights, when there's no power supply, it seems as if it's already evening. It's only when there's light that the place looks lively, because this building is here, that building is there. It has covered every source of light to the kitchen or even to the main house. So now, for some persons, they might not be comfortable living in such an environment or living in such a house where there's no ventilation and there's no source of lighting to the house. So that's another factor that can actually influence the choice of the family housing, because you can't be in a house if there's no light. You can't actually do anything in the kitchen. You have to go use your torch. We find a whole lot of these houses here. Most times, most persons they don't get to just find it. Some persons build and other people built around, and then it became dark. Now, it's going to be an advantage for most persons that are going to be renting, because you can say, no, I don't want this. But if it's your personal house, you would have to find a way. And also, the last but not least is the lifestyle of what? The family. Now, for some persons, they can be very comfortable living in places that are just getting developed, okay? Now, people find out that houses are cheap in these areas, or lands are cheap in these areas that are not well developed. And people like, okay, fine, I can actually live there, in the long run. People would begin to live, and then the place is going to be more developed. But for some other persons, it's something they would not want to do what? Delve into. They want where it's already developed, where there's light, access road, and all of that, because they just can't imagine themselves doing what? Living in such areas where it is not well developed to them. Now, the lifestyle of the family can actually influence that to make them do what? Choose areas where, it is already opened, and then they have access road, everything is fine. They don't want to manage at all. They just want ready-made and all of that. So lifestyle of the family is one factor that influences the choice of the family house. Now, let's look at the ways in which a family can obtain housing, ways of obtaining a house. How can a family obtain a house? Now, there are a whole lot of ways you can obtain a house. Now, the first one is renting a home. Now, where you rent, someone that is renting is actually renting a housing unit in a built house. Now, the owner of the rented house is called the landlord, and the renter is the tenant, is referred to as what? A tenant. So you can actually rent a space, and that way that's your space for that period. You're the owner. You're entitled to say, I'm going to my house, like we say, but you're not the one that built it. So you have the right to say, that is my house, because you are paying for the housing unit in which of which you're living in. So a family can actually own a house by doing renting a house. Now, another way the family can actually own a house or obtain a house is by owning a house, and you can do this in different ways. Now, the first way a family can own a house is by building the house. Now, the family gets a house, they buy the land, and then they build from the scratch. They build. Now, a whole lot of us, most of our parents have built the houses that we're living in today. They got the land, they got an architect and all of that, and then they build from the scratch, and everything. Today, they can be called house owners, because they build their houses. Now, another way the family can own a house is by buying a house. Now, you can actually buy a house. The house is already built. You have the money. You go. Today we have different agents. We have housing facilities that are up for sale. All you need is to have the money. They just say it's 30 million, 40 million, and then you go look out and see if it's something you want to. You just pay for it, and then you're good to go. You're already a house owner by buying the housing units. So another way a family can own a house is by inheritance. Now, inheritance is one way you can own a house. Now, a whole lot of us, mommy and daddy has built the house, and then when mommy and daddy is no longer here, or even if they're still here, the house is your own. So by inheritance, a family can do you can own a house by inheritance. Mommy or daddy's property automatically becomes your own. So you can inherit, and you can rightfully say, this is my house. So by inheritance, you can actually own a house. Now, another one is by gifts. People own houses by being gifted houses. Now, they give you a house. Oh, this is for you. And then you're a proud owner of a house. So these are the ways in which you can own a house. The first one I said, inheritance, buying, building, and the last but not the least, which is gifting. So I think you have other ways in which people can actually own a house, so you can share your view on our YouTube channel. Now, let's look at some practice questions on ExamGuide. Let's practice some questions on ExamGuide. Okay, let's look at this question. The following are causes of crisis in the family, except, we talk about the home and the house. Now, what are the things that can cause crisis in the family? Except, the first one we have here is differing standard. B, arrival of a newborn baby. C, clash of personality. D, change of wardrobe. E, change of job. Now, differing standards is one of the causes of family crisis. The arrival of a new baby too can cause crisis in the family. Now, clash of personality can cause crisis in the family, and change of job can actually cause crisis in the family. Now, change of wardrobe, it doesn't cause crisis in the family. So that answer is D, change of wardrobe does not cause crisis in the family. Let's look at this question. The environmental factor that influences a child's development includes the following except love, B, toy, C, feeding, D, clothing, E, gene. Now, love is one factor that can aid a child's development. Now, the toy in which the child uses to play can actually aid the child's development. Feeding, of course, will aid the child's development. Clothing, does clothing aids the child's development? Of course, gene will do what? Aid the child's development. So clothing is the correct answer for this question. It does not aid the influences a child's development. Let's move on to the next question. Acceptance, love, and of belongings are example of dash need. Acceptance, love, and sense of belongings are examples of dash needs. We have A, esteem, B, social need. We have C, safety needs. D, self-actualization. E, physiological need. Now, which of these is the answer? If you remember what we learned today, acceptance, love, and sense of belongings are examples of what? Are they esteem needs? Are they social needs? Are they safety needs? Are they self-actualization needs or physiological needs? Of course, yes, they are what? Social needs. So the right answer for that question is social. Now, the family, like we said in the course of our lesson, we said there are some needs that has to be met in the family. The emotional, the social, and what was the last one again? The physical needs. Now, so the social need is where you find acceptance, you find love, and the sense of what? Belonging. So B, social, is the correct answer. Thank you for participating in today's class. You can practice more questions using the ExamGuide app. Now, the app scores and gives a detailed explanation of all the questions at the end of your practice test. You can learn a particular topic of interest with different modes like the study mode, mock mode, and practice mode. It also has other features that make learning fun. It is a must-have for every serious student. I know you're that serious student. Now you can download the app from www.examguide.com. If you don't have it yet, please do. Now, see you in our next class. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and share the videos to your friends, your family. I'm sure they'll benefit from it as well. Bye for now.